5 minutes after 1 o'clock here on ENCA. In about 35 minutes from now at 2 o'clock, Transport Minister Fikile Mbalula is going to be giving an update about new Level 3 lockdown regulations. That'll be live here on ENCA and also live streaming on enca.com. Let's go to my colleague now, Linda Fikile, who's following this for us. Hello to you, Linda. A couple of issues we need to discuss this afternoon in the build-up to that. Three main issues. That'll be interprovincial travel, domestic air travel, and of course railway services. Let's start with the interprovincial travel. If we can, where are we now and what are we expecting to hear this afternoon?
Well, Gareth, thank you so much. What we are expecting, of course, is to hear the breakdown of the regulations under transport from the Minister himself, Minister Fikile Mbalula. And what we are expecting to hear is, of course, how the transport sector will be dealing with the opening up of the economy, with the fact that they will be seeing a lot of people back on our roads, back on, public transport. And what we understand so far is that at this stage, the provincial travelling is not allowed as yet, and only essential services are able to allow to travel through provinces. But one of the things that we were able to also see through Level 5 and Level 4 was the fact that there were provincial roadblocks ensuring that there is no movement of non-essential services. But we are expecting to hear exactly what Level 3 will entail in terms of that. But also one of the things that we understood from the COGTA Minister's statement, mentioning transport for about 4 times in her speech, was to say that there will also be other sectors of this particular transport sector that will be opened, particularly with those domestic flights that we're anticipating. We'll hear exactly what that entails. And of course, she also did mention that some of those things that are allowed in Level 4 will also be allowed in Level 3, such as repatriations, such as the travelling of internationally of essential staff, such as those Cuban doctors we saw earlier in the month coming into the country. But certainly there is that anticipation of what we will be likely to hear, particularly around that domestic travel that we understand will be opened for some of the airlines in South Africa.
Linda, before we talk about the resumption of railway services, I'm already seeing a few people on ENCA's Twitter account asking, can I fly as of Monday? Can you just clarify exactly what is allowed for domestic air travel? Not just anybody can jump on an aircraft, can they?
That's right, Gareth. One of the things that we heard from the COGTA Minister, again, Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, was the fact that there will be that domestic travel that will be allowed. But of course, this is anticipating the opening of some sectors of the economy that might need that service. But what she said was that it will only be essential stuff. It will only be when it's paramount important for some of those people to be traveling. It's not for everyone in South Africa. The lockdown still remains in effect, and there are some restrictions around some people who will likely want to travel, but at this stage it seems that only essential services that would be able to provide that clarity on why exactly that it is that they would want to travel will be allowed to travel using domestic flights. But of course, this is something we're looking forward to from the Minister, to clarify on what essential services are there that are allowed to travel. But it's certainly for those that will be allowed to be working, will be needed in some parts of the country, and just providing an easy way to travel and heed the demand of some of those that would want to be in key areas of the country as we move down to Level 3.
All right, so that is interprovincial travel, that is domestic air travel. Linda, let's wrap up with the resumption of railway services. This is going to be the sticking point. We have heard the Transport Minister, we've seen him on the various train services looking at what they put in place to keep passengers safe on the railways. This is going to be the one, Linda, most South Africans are going to want to hear about.
That's right, Gareth. One of the things that railway services such as PRASA provide for particularly the poor communities is a safe passage to go to respective destinations. And if we move down to lockdown Level 3, the issue or the questions would be around the safety of it. We saw earlier on when the Minister was assessing some of those measures put in place by Gautrain. But one thing we need to also be wary of and to look at is the fact that PRASA and Gautrain have largely been looked at, and it does look like there is a gap in terms of the classes in which they are able to provide their services. But at this stage, one of the things that PRASA would need to do is to provide a deep clarity on some of those issues, how they'll be able to keep such a big administration safe for the people that would be using that. And you'd remember, Gareth, that the people who are using PRASA also are people who cannot necessarily afford to be traveling with other things, meaning that there's also the issue of whether they'll be able to afford sanitizers, those masks that are needed, and all of those things that are needed to travel with the public transport. So it would be interesting to hear what the minister will say, particularly about PRASA being one of those much anticipated transports to be opened under lockdown level 3.
Incredibly important briefing at 2 o'clock this afternoon on that story for us. My colleague Linda Fikile will be following that for you live at 2 p.m. Linda, we'll be hearing from you later in the day. That briefing will be live, as I mentioned, here on ENCA on DSTV 4 3, 2 p.m. Also live streaming on enca.com.